All right, listen, some people might think this is MTV Cribs. It is not. Welcome back to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Listen, we have a special edition. My next guest, I don't know if he's Batman. I don't know if he's a CEO. I don't know if he's a lead singer in a band. I don't know if he's a great chef, but I am with Jared Priestner, CEO, GoAuto. GoAuto, if you don't know or are not aware, is one of the largest automotive groups in North America, expanding rapidly, fast. JP, welcome home. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, okay, first off, tell us a little bit about your story, early beginnings. I mean, I went all the way back to when you had the driving school and you're selling all these, driving packages or whatever that you said, wait a sec, I'm so good at sales, but we got to like fulfill the back end. So
Sure.
Take me back to JP as an early entrepreneur, etc.
Yeah, well, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I was lucky enough to be raised by an entrepreneur. Yeah, I always just had the wheels turning on, how to make a buck kind of thing. And, but I probably 14, 15, I was really interested in becoming a punk rocker. So I was like thinking I'm going to go to London or Berlin or somewhere or New York City and be the next Ramones or whatever was kind of my plan. But anyway, got to the end of high school, didn't do great in high school. And I was going to go to car dealer school, because my dad was a car dealer. And he said, hey, well, if you don't have a plan, you might as well go do this or whatever. So I went to Ontario, Georgian College, kind of a famous spot to learn the car business back then. And they had a very honest student housing questionnaire where it was like, how many nights a week do you like to party? 0 to 2, 2 to 4. Mine was like 7. What time do you like to go to bed? Like 9 to 10, 10 to 11, like 2 a.m. kind of thing. So I basically got shacked up in like the animal house. So I remember I rolled in there the first day, there was like a massive poker game going on, 40s of Wisers Deluxe all over the place. And anyway, I was dead tired from traveling across the country. I'd been out at the Windsor pub. I don't know if you remember that place. Over by the university the night before, said bye to all my friends or whatever. My mom drove me to the airport at 6 a.m. So by the time I got there, I was dead tired. And anyway, there was like, these guys rolled in and started playing drums at like midnight, and I couldn't sleep all night. I got up the next day to go to class, and I was just like, this is probably not going to be a great environment for me to grow up in, kind of thing. So I had some trouble trying to get some courses that I wanted. So I ended up like in basket weaving and a bunch of other sort of tough to get your head around type courses. And I was like, after 3 or 4 days, I was like, shit, I'm going to come home. So I got enrolled in NATE. And then my dad called me and said, hey, I bought a driving school. Ford Motor Company had gotten in the driving school business for whatever reason. And that was kind of my first introduction to running my own business. I had previously, when I was a teenager, I had worked at Klondike Cycle and Sports, which was kind of like a legendary place in Edmonton. I learned how to sell bikes and skates and so on and so forth. And yeah, so I just always had the entrepreneurial juices flowing. And that was kind of my first chance running a driving school to get rolling in business. And learned a lot in that. Definitely had a lot of do-overs. Probably I would have liked to do over again, but that's how I got started.
Now, listen, we're here in your studio / personal office. I know you're not making a big deal about this. I am, because I looked this up at Google Maps. I'm like, Jared, are you inviting me to your house? I said, listen, man, I think you're a cool guy, but we're moving a little fast here.
Sure.
But we're standing. What is this? What does this mean to you? Where did the inspiration come from it? Tell me about this. I see records. It's raining outside. Otherwise, I would show you outside. This is phenomenal. Is this the creative juices? Is this where you come to lay your head after maybe a bad day or a good day? What does this place mean to you?
This place was always kind of a cool spot that I had my eye on for many years. It was kind of a little derelict for a few years, and then kind of just kept my eye on it, threw an offer in on it. And then when I got it, I was like, I'd spent my whole career to that point, obviously working in like kind of more of a corporate office environment. And I thought by that time I had a great team underneath me, and I felt like I didn't need to be micromanaging every budget that got done or every marketing ad, et cetera, which is kind of how I started as a real micromanager. I thought as I got older, it would be better to, let people do their own thing, and they would do a better job than me. So I still spend a lot of time in the corporate office, but this place is a little bit different. Do lots of meetings, offsites, recorded a couple of records here with my brother's band. Anything. Had like a million kids over here to play some b-ball or whatever. My sons and their buddies have come over on a cold winter day or whatever. So it's pretty multi-purpose, but just kind of a cool creative space, a little different, a lot of plants, a lot of art. I'm not allowed to hang this type of art in my primary residence. So I was always a big music fan. So my house is very much pristine, clean. And this one I was like, I'm going to plaster the walls with art, and so it's just a cool spot.
Okay, so some dudes call it a man cave. You're calling this like a man cave. Oh, this is next level man cave.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, this is a next level. Like if my males are watching, business owners are like, Jared has a man house. Like this is next level. Has anybody else commented on it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, everyone who comes here is like, oh, this place is kind of cool. But this is my like third podcast in my life, so you're the first official commentary I've ever had, right?
Damn, thank you. Well, let me ask you this. Solitude. I know you. I've heard your name around the automotive industry for tons of time. I found it so cool that your dad has a twin, right?
Sure, yeah.
And the story I kind of heard was, hey, two brothers started Automotive, and then they kind of had like a beef, like almost a competition or something. One starts GoAuto, one is Auto Canada or Canada One.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Started with the heavy question right off the hop. That's funny. Happy to. Basically, my dad and my uncle, they were probably two of the best car entrepreneurs that have ever kind of walked the face of the earth almost. Started like from nothing. Both of them were salesmen. My grandpa was, who I never had a chance to meet, but he was like a sales manager, general sales manager kind of level guy, and passed away kind of suddenly when they were in their early 20s, and they kind of dropped everything they were doing. My dad was kind of hoping to be a hockey goalie, and kind of literally left the team kind of mid-season almost. Had three three sisters and mom at home kind of thing. And Pat being my uncle, Mike being my dad, just kind of took it upon themselves to, forge ahead and kind of be the leaders in their family. So they were great car salesmen, worked for Peter Pocklington, who used to own the Edmonton Oilers. And they got some great opportunities to kind of learn from some of the best Americans had come up to the Calgary market at the time. And so they really knew how to kind of move and shake. And I think they were like extremely progressive in their ideas, and they were like reading Deepak Chopra books and reading Tony Robbins, listening to Tony Robbins audio tapes like in the 80s. I had an opportunity to listen to a few of those when I was younger. And yeah, they just got started in business, went to London, Ontario. They both had like a 33% share of one Dodge dealership that they were kind of lucky enough to get for kind of next to nothing back in the day, and just were really good at what they did, and parlayed that to a couple of moves. We moved to Winnipeg when I was in my teenage years.
So you lived in Winnipeg for a little bit. Do you remember where?
For a couple of years,
yeah. Neighborhood?
We lived in a neighborhood called Tuxedo.
Hey, listen, I lived in Winnipeg for 1 year. There was a place we used to call it Transcona. Don't get mad with me. There used to be this bar on Portage called the Palomino.
Yeah.
It was down from the U of Dub. Because the Balmoral changed street names. Does Osborne Village?
Yeah. That was kind of like where I kind of aspired to hang out if I was going to stay in Winnipeg. Yeah. That was kind of
if you know, you know.
Sure, yeah. I was a big fan of lots of good bands that come out of Propaganda, the Weaker Thens. Neil Young was actually, I think he went to the same high school as my dad did, River Heights High School.
Wow, that's a good fun fact.
There you go, yeah. So.
Damn. Okay, so you got Winnipeg roots, man. I didn't even know that. Yeah, okay. Let me ask you this. So I scoured the internet. I love to do digital deep dives. I think you're a cool dude. There's no interviews, man. I see one video. You won an award through Ford for your community service, which I think is phenomenal. You're coming out Team Ford. You guys got the drone going. And then I see the CDG.
Sure.
And then I'm like, that's it. So purposely reclusive, purposely private, low profile. I mean, I'm calling you Batman today because I want to know, like, I think we're going to press the button. I think we're going to go down a tunnel.
Sure.
Sometime during this podcast.
I know. Well, you could do that.
Yeah, I think that's the whole I got Bobby here as my witness here.
Pretty soon you'll be in a time warp to Winnipeg.
But listen, I mean, and everybody wants to ask you technical questions about automotive, and I'll get to that. But I want to know who the heck you are as a person.
Sure. Well, I guess I'm just I was always just focused on kind of business and family. And I never thought that doing a lot of publicity was really like my thing, or B, really in my best interest. But I think that just as times have changed, and I'm trying to, I guess, lead by example in my own organization to really get on front and put yourself out there. And I think it's important for our younger sales guys and so forth, like lots of people that have a clientele and have lots of experience in the business, probably not essential that you do that. But I think if you're 20 years old or 25 years old, just getting into any business, you probably have to be pretty decent at social marketing. And so I thought I don't want to be the guy, banging my fist saying, hey, do this, do that, if I'm not doing it myself. So I decided to just push myself outside of my comfort zone a little bit and start doing a few interviews, podcasts, post on LinkedIn a little bit, and just see where it kind of takes me. And actually, I've been really pleasantly surprised.
I'm humbled, Jared. I'm humbled that you came on the Ryan Holtz Show, man. It means the world to me.
Yeah, well, no worries, man. I appreciate the invite, and you were very pleasant, and your lovely wife, Nora, was extremely accommodating with a few of my schedules. Pleased to be here. So,
and it's so funny because I messaged you on LinkedIn. I get so perturbed if somebody doesn't respond. I don't have this thing in me, so I gave it like a week, and I'm like, hey, we've had some of the world's best, man. Like, I'm one of those people that I like to hear the yes or the no.
Sure.
Like, I don't like the silence, because some people say the silence is the no. I don't know. Just say, Ryan, no. never hear from you again. I'll never bother you again. But I just like to know. And you're like, no, let's do it, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, being in sales my whole life, I always admired people with persistence. And I get a huge amount of LinkedIn messages.
Of course.
Not because I'm cool or because I'm exciting or anything, just because there's 7 million AI software vendors who want to sell me a solution. So actually, I just missed your message, and I loved your comeback, which is like, "Hey man, I don't bite" or something. that grabbed my attention. I was like, "Hey man, that was enough for me. I'll do this podcast because I'd obviously heard your name around, and I knew you did some cool shit, and I thought that I would be happy to do it. And I apologize for not getting back to you quicker.
No, it's all good, man. The Be Back bus came back on a rare occasion. Usually we like to sell much, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Social media marketing. I love that you brought this up. 2012 was my ceremoniously inclusion into the automotive industry.
Yep.
If you said, Ryan, go take an up, I'd say, Jared, what's down? I knew nothing. Green
Sure.
P all the way.
Yep.
Didn't understand. Learned so much really quick. Love the industry because I to be honest, I'm not a car guy. But not something you're not going to find me under the hood on a Saturday. No interest in it. But
Sure.
I love the people. Of course, I love the storytelling about a vehicle. Vehicles do so much in people's lives, good and bad. I remember getting on stages 2012 and said, look, social media is going to sell cars. But I came up with something different. I said, look, dealer principals would always say, Ryan, like, our social media accounts are not that good. And I'm like, well, who wants to follow a dealership?
Sure, exactly.
Right? And, not to be rude, but I said, like, sometimes dealers are ranked like one step above Revenue Canada in terms of public opinion. Let's just be honest about it, because some people have some bad experiences. So I said, look, at the dealership level, let's get like your top 3 salespeople. And let's say, instead of saying like Team Ford, let's say Jared at Team Ford.
Sure, yeah.
Because my theory was that people don't want to do business with a dealership. They want to do business with people inside the dealership.
Sure, yeah.
And so we said, okay, let's really kind of amp up this personal branding. What do you think about that now, 2026, where you're saying, hey, I need to start walking my own talk so that, the people that are working with me can see that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think you're way ahead of the curve, number one. Number two, I think you're dead on the money that people want to follow people, not businesses. And similar to like, if you ask a survey of 1,000 people, why they left XYZ company, Xerox or Apple or Facebook, they'll say, I didn't have a good manager, or the reason they stayed there was they had a good manager. Same thing with education. If I ask my kids, what do you like about school? The first thing they'll say is their teacher. It's not that they love the particular school. And I think if social media is the same thing, I think businesses inherently just aren't that interesting to follow, where, Ryan at whatever business you're working at is very interesting. And it feels like you're getting the inside scoop, where you get to understand how the sausage is made, so to speak. Right. So I think that's the edge. And I think that if you've got some charisma and you've got some stick-to-itiveness, you're going to expose yourself to just a by far larger audience than you ever would just by, sitting on your hands waiting for ups, which you use that terminology. But for probably 99% of your audience, may not know what that means. That's someone who just walks in the door to car dealership. We affectionately call them ups.
And don't be a lay down. If you know, you know.
Don't be a lay down. Yeah.
Jared, what's a lay down? You're like, don't say that, Ryan. What's a lay down?
No.
Let's be honest here. This is full disclosure.
We can go through the full terminology if you want.
Yeah.
A lay down is someone who just accepts whatever the first offer that's presented to them without hesitation or pushback or any negotiating skill. But those are fewer and fewer, far between in 2026. I think most customers are pretty darn educated these days. So,
well, yeah,
the lay down is an extinct animal.
Well, the path to discovery, to consideration, I mean, in my opinion, they've already chose who they want to buy the vehicle from before they even get to your door with the internet and with their discovery. I mean, the average car buyer is very sophisticated. Like, if I'm a salesperson in 2026 and I'm, somebody walks in the door, like, I'm not asking you like carpet or leather or whatever. The first thing I'm saying is, Ryan here. Hey, listen, what's your name? Sam, tell me how many websites you've been on before you got here today. And that's just my way of disarming Sam to figure out what has it done for research.
Sure.
What do you think about that?
I think people do a lot of research, and I actually think that the role of a salesperson is probably more important than ever, because it's very easy to get like paralysis by analysis. Like in the old days, you had to rely on someone to give you all the information. Now the information's out there, but there's so much volume of it and from so many different sources, and some are very accurate, some are totally inaccurate. And then you add on or layer in AI, maybe scooping that information and skinning it or presenting it in whatever way it may,
Decision fatigue,
which may be accurate, inaccurate, or timely or not timely, and then you've got the relevance of what inventory is actually physically available today as opposed to 6 months ago when that article was written, or when that, et cetera. So it really helps to synthesize the process for the client to have a really knowledgeable, salesperson to work with. And for the customer, I think it's easier to do the preliminary stages of research, maybe like what kind of vehicle roughly do I want. But as you get down to like transacting on it, I think the personal touch of someone helping you out is more valuable than ever.
How long does it take if I walk into your dealership, how long does it take me to buy a vehicle from the time I walk in the front door to the time I'm in the box? The box, aka, is the finance office. This, my friends, is where the magic happens. Jared can attest to that. You think they're nice and sweet. You see them, they come in, they give you coffee, they make you feel good. That's when the real sales starts, in my opinion. The box, you got to be very strategic on. But how long does it take in an average GoAuto dealership in Edmonton to buy a car?
Oh man, that would really vary based on a number of factors, like based on the customers, where they're at in the process. Like if they've already picked out the exact, Toyota Corolla that they want, and they know the exact color and so forth. I mean, you could buy it, and they're paying cash. They could buy it in 45 minutes. If you are trying to choose between, like, hey, I want a mid-size SUV, I'm not sure exactly which one, and maybe you've got some credit challenges. I mean, that could be a multi-day process. Just making sure you take the time. I don't think that you want to rush making a decision of that size or magnitude. You want to be sure you find the right car for you and your family's needs. You want to also make sure you find something that's in the right budget, which is probably the area that most people are misinformed on in terms of their monthly budget, in terms of how does this car that I have, plus the trade-in that I have, plus my exact credit profile translate to a monthly payment I can afford, and then do I want to lease it or do I want to purchase it, and how long do I want to purchase it for, and how much do I want to put down? And so that whole process, I think you really want to take your time and sit with someone in finance that knows what they're talking about and can educate you properly, and not, lots of people get really excited about, they fall in love with a car with every option known to man on it, and they could probably live with 80% of those options and, 15 or 20% less monthly expense. Sometimes there's people that are really misinformed about, they think that they have the credit that can get them the advertised price that, Ford of Canada showed on the TV ad, or Honda Canada or whoever, but they have, a couple collections, or they missed some payments on some stuff, and they can't qualify for that interest rate. So their expense is much higher than maybe the average person's would. So you really need to spend your time and go through it. So I would say anywhere between 45 minutes to, maybe overnight, depending on those factors.
GoAuto is expanding every month. It seems like I hear you bought two, you bought one. Now we're going down to the States. Is this a saturation thing in Western Canada where you feel like, hey, our footprint has become so large that we want to go down to the US? You're in what, Bellingham, Seattle, LA? Do I got that
Exactly,
correct?
Yeah, totally.
What is the decision behind that? And is it a play of, because when you go to the US, I mean, come on, man, they got 300 and some million people compared to us. I mean, they're a juggernaut. Let's be honest with that. What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I think the US is a pretty intimidating market for a lot of Canadian businesses, like not just car dealers, but anyone that's like, hey, it feels like the big bad brother almost. At some degrees, we took our time when we went there in the first place. We were reaching, I would say, somewhat of a saturation point in Western Canada, almost only so much we can grow. Every manufacturer has sort of a threshold of how much market share they'll allow one dealer to have, so that, you can't dominate the competition. We were kind of reaching that point with some manufacturers. And then I think also you got to keep things fresh in your career and your challenges for your team. And so we decided to make the move into the US. We kind of tiptoed over the border in Bellingham, like you mentioned, like right across the Canadian border, probably the most Canadian American city you possibly could go to, with Toyota, which is probably the best and easiest brand to work with. So we kind of took the easiest first step we could, and then we kind of realized, hey, this is really a very similar business and has very similar fundamentals. And then we kind of took the big move last year into Seattle and LA, into much larger stores, big metro markets with the big Goliath type competitors, and we just wanted to kind of try our luck. And by volume, now we'd be like in the top 20 roughly auto groups in North America size wise. So we're no small potato. We kind of know what we're doing. We've learned over the years kind of what we're good at, what we're not good at. We've kind of learned the ropes in terms of where you can win and where it's real difficult. So I think we've learned those lessons over time, and we just kind of decided to jump in with both feet into the deep end there. And we're still highly committed to Canada. We'll take the opportunities when they come, but I think our ambitions are pretty big. And so we thought, got to go where the population is and where the opportunity is. So we stepped in there, and it's been awesome so far, and looking forward to growing more in the States.
All right. My next question, if your legal counsel was here, they would say, don't answer that, Jared, because he's basically trying to entrap you. So I'm going to give you the forewarning on that. But I love the automotive industry, but to be honest, I think some dealers just suck. And the reason I say that is a lot of dealers go out and they go to these conferences and the hoorah and the motivation and lanyards and all the little swag bags and all that stuff. And they say, hey, we want to change. But a lot of dealers, they don't change. Now, I'm asking you this question because you got receipts that you do push change. But I love what you said. You said in the interview, you said, look, I wanted to be in the software as a service business. And you guys had Strathcom.
Mm-hmm.
And Strathcom, you guys had the websites and everything going. I think you got up to like 300 plus dealers at one point.
Yep.
And you said, damn, though, dealing with dealers kind of suck. Like, you bring them the whole way, you tell them what to do, they don't follow through. I love that because to me, that was honest, because you're a dealer saying, man, I was a dealer dealing with dealers and I still found it to be a headache.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on that 2026? Do they want to change? Is the mentality shifting? You guys are acquiring all kinds of dealerships. So I know with that, you're getting a set mentality in there.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think car dealers, like any business, are like a humongous mixed bag. Like probably, honestly, if I had 100 individuals I've ever met in my life, like in terms of like the most honorable, generous, just badass guys that have come from absolutely nothing, from every different religion, persuasion, income level, like guys who made it from nothing to worth hundreds of millions of dollars are car dealers, and guys who are, I think car dealers actually by stats are like literally the most generous philanthropers in the community. Like I think car dealerships in almost every municipality in North America would be 1, 2, or 3 in terms of community give back in dollars, partly because the dealerships earn good money, and partly because I think the majority of people who run them are very generous. I do think that car dealers in general have generally a bad reputation, like personal injury lawyers or
call Saul.
Pick another profession, politicians, et cetera. I think it's like it's the same with all the professions. That you're going to find some total scumbags, and you're going to find some people you'd trust your kid with or a dying wish with, kind of thing. So it's definitely a mixed bag. I would say that in terms of some of the scummier ones, I just think it's a real tough business to be in nowadays. If you've got sort of a lie, cheat, steal type of mentality, 100%. It's like anybody can review you 6 ways to Sunday, and you also have so much information in the customer's hands that if you are not transparent and open with customers, they can just tell right away that you're not giving me the straight goods, and they'll just go somewhere else. Because the other thing car dealers have to deal with, unlike a lot of other professions, is that there's always another Ford dealer or Kia dealer or Mazda dealer that they can just take their business to. So I think that the reputation by and large in the industry is pretty outdated. I think most car dealerships you walk into nowadays, you're going to get the straight goods. You're maybe not always going to like them, because I think a lot of times consumers also have really wild ideas about maybe what their trade is worth, or how much of a discount that they think they should expect, or whatever. But for the most part, I think you're going to get a good experience at the vast majority of car dealerships, and the ones that you're not going to get a good experience at are they're not long for this world. They're going to be sold to guys like me who look at an opportunity like that, maybe see that there's some real improvements on how they could improve their business, and we can probably earn more money doing things the right way, because you can always do more sales, do more service business, do more revenue, more profit in all areas by leading with transparency. And so when you go make an offer, more times than not, to a business guy like that, you'll find that they're straight math guys, right? They're just doing the calculus and going, this guy's offering me this, I can only make this. And so those dealerships, I think, are going away for the most part pretty quickly, but there's still the odd one left, obviously. But I think by and large, out of if you met 100 car dealers, you'd probably be pretty happy to sit beside them at a hockey game, or you'd be pretty happy to trust them with your kids for the weekend if you had to. They're I think the guys in the 80s and 90s that were kind of pinstripes and bombshells, and get to the bar at noon, and hit the guy over the head with a hammer when he walked in, throw the keys on the roof, and any old saying you want to use. I mean, those times definitely existed, but I think they're really thing of the past for the most part. So,
well, I love that. Somebody asked you, hey, why should somebody sell their dealership to you? And you say, hey, look, we're probably one of the quickest to acquire. Due diligence is minimal, and we really go on character, meaning, you bought a couple dealerships in the past where you could tell like whoever was running it was not on the up and up, which is a mess that you're going to deal with down the road. Speak to that. And if anybody's ever connected with any of your management or GoAuto, right from your president to your HR to Duncan to you, you guys always have some tagline of, we're looking for the best people. Like it's like a mantra in your company, clearly, because it's on like email signatures and social media and all that. How do you find great people? How do you personally, as Jared, use your internal value barometer to figure out, hey, am I talking to somebody high caliber? How do you assess that?
So are you talking about on the dealership acquisition side, or on the trying to find an employee side?
Both sides. Go with the dealer acquisition first, then employee.
Yeah, I think the dealer you can suss out pretty quickly. Like I guess I've been doing this a long time, and I would pride myself as someone who could read people reasonably well. So I think you kind of I use a very, much like yourself, actually, a very helter-skelter style of interviewing or asking questions. You never really know where I'm going to go.
Jared,
so
this isn't helter-skelter, man. Yo, I better relax a bit, eh, Bobby? This is a safe space to have unsafe conversations, man.
You yourself said I should, my legal counsel. I'm his best. That's why you never talk to your legal counsel about marketing. But
they say good ideas go to die in the legal department and the accounting department.
There you go. Well, both those departments are important, but
100%.
On the people side, I would never follow a specific script. I'm just trying to basically figure out by asking a series of questions, is this person telling me the truth or not? And I can almost always discern that based on, probing, or I like to call it like taking them into deep water. So like, meaning like someone in like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, a lot of people can kind of bluster you with bullshit, but you have dinner with them for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it just, the character reveals that the stories don't add up or whatever. So you can kind of, if you're buying someone's business like that, you're kind of pricing in the sandpaper gloves factor, where they feel very slippery. So you got to make sure you've got a good grip on them, kind of thing. Or you're definitely pricing that in. But on the employee side, I've just always had an eye for, I think there's some people in the world just give a shit, and you can just immediately see it, whether it's someone working at McDonald's or someone, is working in your job. You can just tell the way people carry themselves. And I love that old expression, like the way you do, something is the way you do everything. And so you just observe people that really just go about the world in a more, higher effort way, and just have a higher give a shit factor and have a higher say-do ratio. Like they say they're going to do something and they do it. Those type of people I find you can always win with. And I think that's why whether you met Jason, our CEO, or Phil, our president, or Duncan, but anyway, all those guys have been there for 20 years plus with me, and they all have those characteristics. And you can always learn, how to be a better marketer, how to be a better accountant, how to be a better whatever, but it's very difficult to have those sort of inherent characteristics of hard work and of just like give a shit factor. So those are the things that I look for from an employee type of standpoint. And
do you guys have a entrepreneur culture? Meaning, do you look at somebody that owns a business and say maybe they come into your organization as, like, some organizations straight up you can tell they're like, wait a sec, you're a business owner, I don't know how you're going to jive inside of our culture? Or do you feel like, hey, if somebody owned a business and they're coming in, do you look at them like, hey, this person understands how to run a business, we can give them more tasks? Like, well, how do you look at that?
Yeah, no, I think our company is very unique in that way, that we're built by entrepreneurs, kind of for entrepreneurs, and we don't do anything, I would say, by any type of like standard operating procedure, or like, you're like, oh, this is how Fortune 500 companies should run. We're just like, what's the best way to do this? And we're very unconventional, I think, in that way with how we look at things. So someone that's run a small business, and we've got probably, I don't know, hundreds of them in our organization that have started up a business for whatever reason. I think a lot of people start a small business, and then especially the internet these days just sells the shit out of the idea that, like, you should, you can work 4 hours a week, and you could be on, you could be on Instagram superstar, and you could have a place in LA, and blah, blah, blah. It's not really how working a small business works, right? Like, it's a shitload of grinding, and then you've got...
And there's no balance, by the way.
No balance.
That word scares the hell out of me. I like integration.
Yeah,
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, no, I agree. You have to really fully commit to it all in to do that. I think certain people at some point in time realize, okay, well, I was hoping to do this, but realistically, my business is making maybe $100,000 a year, but now I got a part-time employee, and I got to figure out my taxes, and my weekends are all shot. It's like I could go work for an existing business, drop a lot of the stress, overhead, et cetera, and still be able to use my creativity and flexibility. And we really are not trying to we're not trying to sell the car the same way every time. We're not trying to do a marketing campaign the same way every time. We're wide open to ideas, whether they come from the receptionist that's a part-time student, or they come from me. And so I think when you have that type of culture, it's pretty welcoming to someone who's got some experience. And I also think people that have run their own business have like the greatest reality pill you could ever take to just like how difficult it is to run a business. So sometimes those are like the easiest employees that you could ever have to work with. They have the appreciation of how difficult it is to actually run a business, especially in a climate where, like, the last couple of years, I mean, you're running a small business, it's very constantly changing, and you just don't know. You've got to be able to adapt with the times. You got to be able to roll with the punches. And so I think they're much more appreciative of, they've seen the other side. They know what the other side of the curtain looks like. And so, yeah, those people are winners in our company. And we also have the car business in general, but I would say us even more emphatically, like, there's no real limit on your earning potential. If you can figure out how to sell 10 cars, you can figure out how to sell 20, you can figure out how to sell 30, you might be able to make triple what, what the average person makes. And then you could get promoted, many, many times up the company chain. So yeah, it's really great for people that have ambition, but maybe don't want to run their own business, or a lot of people that just like whatever business they might've been in has a ceiling of, whatever, maybe 100 grand a year, but they want to make 300. We can do that in our company, no problem.
How close are you to your vision? If I was to get a neurosurgeon to do some surgery on your brain and I wanted to showcase it to our audience, and I see the projector on the screen with your vision of GoAuto and yourself, because you alluded to, obviously not in it for the money. You guys are massive. You want to say, hey, you know what? We're good where we are right now, man. It's just recurring. I mean, you're kind of good to go. What keeps that burn, that motivation? But how close are you to your vision? Because even when we study, like your dad starts the business, but the growth that you took it to, this is a rocket ship, man. So
Sure.
Where does that come from? Like, to me, I feel like you got to wake up and maybe like start punching yourself a bit to get yourself pissed off and get into that. Like how do you get, that's an aggressive type of growth. So again, I want to pick your brain in the best way, not on LinkedIn, because I can't stand people.
Sure.
That's upsetting. But give us your vision. Like, how far are you away from that? What does that look like?
Yeah, I never really had a real like specific vision, like we want to get to 100 dealerships or to 10 billion in revenue. And to your point, like there was a great boxer, I don't know if you're a boxing fan or not, but of course, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. He was like that middleweight champion of the world for a long time, and he had a great quote that said, it's hard to wake up at 6 a.m. when you're wearing silk pajamas. Yeah. Not that I'm wearing silk pajamas, but it is, I think, a challenge that people could run into where you're like, I'm just not motivated anymore. I've got enough money. I could go anywhere I want, eat whatever I want, go on whatever vacation or buy whatever house, whatever. So I think it's just, I always just had a burning desire for improvement and for challenge. I think I'm also maybe one of those type of people that's really kind of brains going all the time. So I don't know what I would do if I was just sitting around, with my feet on the desk going, I'm good. So I feel like it's a really productive outlet for, it keeps you on your toes, keeps you sharp, keeps you smart, keeps you working out, keeps you just
what do you tell your 9-year-old? You're a dad. I'm a dad too.
Yeah.
I always bring up the dad stuff. I feel like I'm the world's best. I am so invested in being a dad. Like I'm obsessed with being dad. All things dad, like dad life. But
number one job.
I just feel it's the highest privilege you could receive. What do you tell your 9-year-old? Because you have a 9-year-old son?
I've got a 10-year-old son.
10-year-old son, sorry.
An 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old girl.
Okay. So if they say, hey daddy, you work so hard. Why? Like, where'd you get that? Like, why do you work so hard, Dad?
I don't think any of my kids have ever asked me why I work so hard, but we have probably, like, in my family or myself and my wife, I think probably the number one characteristic we're trying to instill in our kids is to be hard workers, because that's the skill I think that'll take you places. And I think that of all the skills in the world, hard work is the single hardest skill to master. Like, so many people have talent in a certain area, but the skill of hard work applies anywhere you want to put it, whether my kids are all athletes, or if they want to work in business, or they want to pursue whatever. My wife wants them to be doctors or scientists, whatever. Any field you want to go into, hard work is going to be a massive differentiator that over the long run is going to be the great separator, I think. So yeah, my kids, I think they just see more than they listen. Like I'm sure you notice with your kids, it's not so much what you tell them, it's more what you
so much is caught, not taught, right?
There you go. That's a good expression.
Well, because this is probably because you deal with people all the time. I've learned to like actually look at people's lips while they're talking, and I'm like assessing whether it's bullshit or not.
Sure.
So people can do a great job of just telling you bullshit. So I almost look at their lips and then I see the body language. I'm like, is this adding up with what they're saying? Because I feel like when people are telling such bullshit, they don't believe it themselves.
Sure.
So I mean, again, I think with parenting, so much is caught and not taught. How do you cultivate? Has becoming a dad or a father impacted the way you cultivate your team at GoAuto? Culture, bringing the best out in people, challenging people in a good way. Maybe parting ways with people because you're like that. Not the best fit.
Yeah, no, I think the number one way would be leniency or compassion. Like when I was a younger guy, had no kids, like I could just go, 12 hours a day, every day. And I kind of thought that people that maybe didn't want to do that or couldn't do that were maybe, I'm probably ashamed to admit it now, but I kind of thought they were a little soft or a little maybe not cut out for this in the same way. Where now having kids, I just completely appreciate that when someone says, hey, boss, I got to duck out from like today, I'm going to duck out of this whenever we're done and go, run over and watch my kid play hockey for an hour and a half. And now I would not want to jeopardize an employee from having that opportunity. There's so many ways to catch up, especially nowadays with technology. You can grab an hour after they go to bed. You can get up an hour earlier. You can just be way more productive and during the day and stay off, TikTok or Reels for, 1 extra hour per day and just get whatever you need to get done. And just think that people can figure out a way to be as productive with a little less, hours in business per se. And so that'd be the number one reason I would say would be I'm a lot more compassionate toward people that have kids than it was before I had kids. The other thing I would say is we made a like you were saying about the car business, some great people in the business and some not so great people. And I think maybe 15 years ago, we read a book called I think it was called The Advantage by this guy, Patrick Lencioni. It was really talking about organizational health. And that was a transformational book for me to read and for us to kind of incorporate it into our company culture. And at that time, I was like, probably when I was in my 20s, it was like performance first. And then sometimes you have to put up with some, less than desirable characteristics from ultra high performers. And we just literally after one session, one meeting session, we were like, anyone that we didn't think met our core values, which back then was a really foreign concept. Not a lot of companies, almost every company today uses it. But back then it was like, we didn't have very specific core values. So now we have like 3 really easy ones. If they're not trustworthy, they're not a team player, and they're not like kind of a happy to help attitude, they're just not the right fit for us. So then we just kind of put every single manager we had, general manager on down through that matrix. And there was a couple of people that were just, not at the trustworthiness level that we would want. So we just let them go literally the next day, made the tough decision to go, hey, a couple of our highest 10 performers or whatever, got to go. But in order to kind of walk the talk, we got to do this. And ever since then, I think we just stuck with that. And that's just been massive. And I think when you have people that have the same values as you, we're a very family focused company. We've always really led with family, whether it was through our employee holiday program or through a lot of times we'll close for 3-4 days at Christmas, which is in the car business just unheard of. 4 or 5 days before New Year's, the year's finishing, to just let all your employees have 3 or 4 days off in a row is just like literally unheard of. So just done a million things over the years to really show our employees first and foremost, like, hey, our give a shit factor for you guys is at the highest level you'll ever find in the business. And I find that employees really reciprocate that back to us with commitment level and sacrifice that they're willing to make. That customer comes in and they're from out of town or they need something done like ASAP. We'll have that detailer goes, hey, tonight I don't have a kids hockey game. I can be a half an hour late home. I'll get that car delivered for you. I'll get it detailed, or I'll get that remote start put in or whatever. Or the sales guy will stay late when the customer says, supposed to be there at 8:30. We close at 9 and they show up at 8:45. He knows he's going to be there till 9:45. He's like, he does it. It's kind of a scratch your back, we'll scratch yours type thing. And I think that's what's really led to our growth is having so many people that are willing to go the extra mile, and then they get a promotion for that, and then it just kind of builds on each other, and that's how we've been able to grow.
Dealers are an emotional bunch of people. I mean, your emotions can switch by the hour. It's like the weather, because when we look at the month, and everybody listening to this, if they don't know the car business, everything is by the month. Yeah. And if you got 30 days in this month, the sales managers, we got 6 more selling days. We got 5 more selling days. Now, if you had a rock star month, everybody's clapping hands, high fiving, the spiffs, maybe whatever you're doing at the dealership, everybody's having fun. Then when that calendar switches the next day to the first of the next month, it's all business again. Yeah. It's like, well, what happened, guys? You guys were so excited. Oh no, Ryan. This is a new month, bro. Yeah. We got to get on this. Totally. Would that be a fair assessment?
100%. You know that. I think that's why so many people would find the intensity level associated with the business like totally foreign compared to a lot of jobs we work at where you can just kind of cruise for long periods of time on like autopilot or whatever. The manufacturers put targets every single month that you've got to hit if you want to keep securing the inventory, which you're going to need to sell cars, make money for both the salesman and the dealer and anyone else in between, and to satisfy the customers and to get an edge on your competition. So you start every single month with 0, which is a very unique. You have no salary, no anything. You just got all these cars in the lot. You got a rent bill to pay. You put some money out in the world for marketing. You've got a team in place that knows how to execute, a process. You get these opportunities that show up as, digital piece of information on the internet, and you make friends with them and try to, have that trust transfer process from they're going to trust somebody. You got to hope it's you. You got to earn it. And then you got to find a piece of inventory that works perfect for them. And then you got to figure out the financial part of it. And then you got to do that, whatever it is, 100, 200, 300 times a month at every dealership. And then you got to start all over in the next month. And if you go to sleep or you get complacent or on any part of it, you're just going to get smoked because everyone else is out there trying to eat your lunch.
Everybody asks you this question. I think it's an important question. Like, hey, would you ever consider taking the company public? And you kind of give that example. You're like, hey, listen, I sat on the board for like a year and it was just regurgitating the why we can't and drove you mad and nuts? So clearly you like to move quick. You like to have decisions, you know, you obviously consult your team and things like that, but you also like to, you know, do that in a quick manner. Would you say you're more of a lone wolf or a partner?
Partner, for sure. Yeah.
Collaborator.
Yeah. I don't think that, like, in the history of humans, like whether it's running pro sports teams or being musicians, I mean, there's the odd person that's like an absolute virtuoso that can, you know, just hear their own song and just, you know, do it at an extremely high level. But collaboration is the formula for human success, I think. So in general, so you want to I want to get an idea from, you know, maybe my CFO, who's maybe a little more conservative in nature, and my president, who's a little more maybe of a wild man, and then myself and maybe my dad, who's, you know, 25 years older than me, who's seen, you know, that many more moons than I have. And you sort of try to synthesize all that information. At the end of the day, I make the best decision I can after I've collaborated with all those people. And I don't think that process takes a long time or needs to slow it down. It's especially if everyone's on the same page that we all understand we want to make a decision quickly, we want to move with speed. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to slow down and take all of the valid opinions at the table. And once we have those, then I've always been someone fairly comfortable with, like, you never know you're going to make any given decision with 100% certainty. So there's always going to be some unknown attached to any decision. So you just make the best decision you can with the information you have. Don't overthink it, pull the trigger, and then always try to make decisions that, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, that it's not going to kill you, that you just be able to come back, you know, fight another day, earn it back, figure out another way to come back at it another day. And that's kind of how I think about decision making.
Vendor dealer relationships. Holy, what a dance. What a dance. And I bring up vendor dealer relationships because what do the vendors get wrong about dealers? Like you talk to a lot of dealers and you could talk about company X and, you know, maybe they'll say, oh, they're decent. Like there's not really a vendor that gets it 100%. I mean, you know, you mentioned a CDK or whatever, but, you know, like what do they get wrong? Like if you're servicing a dealer in 2026, let me put it this way. If you're to start Strathcom all over again, you said, from all the problems and frustrations I've had in the last decade, how would you start that company? What would you be your primary focus to ensure that you're bringing the utmost value to?
Yeah, we do the exact same vision we had in the first place, which was to synthesize every single disparate system that you use in a car dealership into one dashboard that could be like the mothership for everything.
Destined to everything.
Yeah, but I found that from a technology standpoint was so difficult to execute, not from our own technical acumen, but the integrations with so many different slivered pieces of information and so many large behemoth companies you have to work with to try to make that work. And then that even was not that daunting, but then trying to sell a dealer that, okay, you're going to ditch these 11 subscriptions and you're going to go all in with me, and their fear of jumping in the deep end when they've had so many broken promises and so many faltered relations with so many vendors over the years. That's extremely hard leap of faith for a dealer to take. So I think that's the primary reason why no one's been quite able to do that yet. But if I was going to start the thing over again, I would start with the same exact vision. I would just know now. I don't think I probably could execute it. Back then I was a little more naive. I thought I could put all those things together, and maybe it would have been possible had I not been trying to run a retail dealer group at the same time. And that was clearly my main focus. It was pretty obvious that it was not something I was going to be able to do, you know, when it was part-time. And so yeah, that's what I do.
We had a dealer group reach out to do a podcast. They want to do a podcast. Would you ever do a GoAuto podcast?
What type of podcast? Like get some of our employees together to talk about a certain issue, or let's talk about, you know, mid-size SUVs and have the Kia guy and the Hyundai guy and the Mazda guy and the Toyota guy all debate which one is the best? Or what do you think?
Jared, that is some boring shit that you just said. Nobody wants to hear that. That you were talking to Ryan Holtz. We do not do.
That's why we
got to put some spice on that. Okay. Sure. All right. Number one, I think that back in the day, and you know us from the corporate standpoint, if you ever stepped like from behind the logo, quote unquote, like you'd be fired. Remember the messaging was always like, everything is about the brand. Everything is about the logo. Now, circa 2026, you know, even in the interview processes, you know, I'm sure you asked the question, hey, are you somewhat social media savvy? Or sometimes you kind of look at their social media footprint and be like, do I want to work with this type of person? Sure. But I think about the GoAuto podcast because it got me thinking, because we get corporations like, hey, yeah. And I'm like, well, number one, people want to know who runs the company. Sure. So it's like, you know, the general public says, hey, Jared, great. But it's like, well, who is Jared? Well, how do you figure that out in like a 10 seconds? So the podcast, that's great. So you got the long form, but then it's also showcasing management. And then it's also showcasing the dealership level, because I think that, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know what your guys' marketing kind of theory is, but, you know, when you're so big, I'm sure you're looking for, you know, any type of way to personalize your messaging into, you know, said market, right? And I think people nowadays, you talked about this on I think another interview or whatnot, but you said, look, people don't want to be treated like cattle, right? So one message does not, one size doesn't fit all. And I think, with podcasting, people think it's just a podcast. I'm like, no, it's a 60-minute conversation that gets chopped up into 60 clips and is a good use of people's time. Because if Jared's doing a million interviews a day, how do we get more talk with Jared at scale? Because you're a busy guy, and management too. And I think a lot of people have lots to say, but maybe the company doesn't give them a chance to say it.
Yeah, I would say that.
And yes, of course, we do product demos. I know sales.
Sure. Well, yeah. I think that people are always interested in people. So I think there may be an angle to display or go deeper with some of our people. I think us starting our own podcast, I think we'd be better to leverage the audiences that you and other podcasters have. I think that our focus when it comes to marketing is typically on inventory. If we can market our inventory incredibly well, very specifically and very detailed, and have the highest quality images and representation of what we have to sell, typically the customer will inquire with us, and then from there we can build a relationship, and then
personalize.
That's the magic is the service more than the broadcast. I would say I do believe that individuals on our teams, and I'm really encouraging them to do so, can become the Ryan the Kia guy in Alberta, and he can to the Kia audience out there, he can be that behind the scenes kind of show you how the Kia business works or the Kia models work, and I think that has a lot of legs. But I think as a GoAuto podcast, that's not on my bingo card.
I worked with Mayfield Toyota back in the day, and this is before, because they did the whole Mayfield Toyota on Ice, the West Ed, before they even went in there. And they created this little thing because they said, hey, we have a big Filipino base.
Yep.
And they speak Tagalog in the food. And so they created a subpage called Filipino Drives. Killed it because they're, really kind of hammering down on that. And I think I still get GoAuto, and I'm like, you have so many different chapters and areas of your business to appeal to, but it just got me thinking. So I wanted to ask you the question.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Jared, we're coming to a wrap. Tell me something about yourself. What do people get wrong about you? Do you care about being liked? Would you rather be liked or be known?
Ooh, I'd rather be liked by people I like or care about than be known. I don't think being known for me is super important.
Okay.
But I would probably rather be respected than either of the two. Just like not everyone that you compete with in your industry is going to be like, that's the most likable guy in the world. He just smashed me, in the Ford world. But at least I think I would like at the end of the day for them to be like, yeah, I respect that guy. Like when you go compete against him, it's going to be an honest game, but it's going to be a battle. I think with being liked, it's like very important to me that I'm likable too, and I'm a real dude with my friends and with my family, and I try to really prioritize being just a regular dude. And in terms of being known, that's never something I've almost tried to be unknown for my whole life because I've thought that maybe I had a misconception and wrong perception. Now that I put myself out there a little bit more, that if you focus on being known, you're just focused on the wrong things, and then you can easily get distracted by just trying to create too much attention, and you're not focused on the ABC 1, 2, 3s of what you need to focus on as much. Now I think I've kind of maybe learned to balance a little bit, that it's not a bad thing to chop it up with Ryan for an hour or two, and it's been fun.
What has been the catalyst though? Was there a moment that got you saying, maybe I had to go from that right brain to the left brain? Maybe I got to show a little bit of, Jared.
I don't know really what it was, because it was a pretty staunch conviction of mine. Like it was something that I had never done in 25 years. I always just tried to be the guy behind the scenes. I was just, making it happen. And, my team knows me well. My friends, my family, they all know me. They know a lot about me, but I've never really prioritized being known in the public. And I just thought the more people, what it actually was, Ryan, was AI. As I started playing more and more with the Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT and so forth, and I started recognizing how my own patterns were changing in terms of how I was researching things. I'm like, people are going to research me like this, and I should, if I have nothing out there whatsoever, it's very difficult for them to get a picture of what's what. So I thought, as I was just really doubling, tripling down on my understanding of AI, I was like, you know what, I should put myself out there a little bit. And then I think I did that car dealership guy podcast, and then I immediately got some great feedback on that. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 days later, I got an incredible resume from 2 brothers that had worked in Kansas City that never would have found me in a million years, that were like A+ level car dealers, Elaine and Jesus. And we were looking for a new general manager and VP in North Hollywood. And And out of all the candidates that we talked to, those are the guys we ended up hiring. And that was like, I don't know, it was probably 4 days after the podcast dropped. And I was like, this is kind of magic that I've been, burying my hand in the sand, maybe doing it the hard way. And I thought just being myself, put myself out there a little bit, and probably some good things are going to happen. And then I just sort of slowly started doing a little bit my own style on LinkedIn. That's really the only social media platform I've ever.
Bobby, Jared just sold himself a car. I just asked him previously about podcasting. You're such a dealer. You went right to the sales in the car. You said, look, man, if I focus on the car, we're going to personalize it. Then you just told me, I went on this podcast and I just recruited some of the most incredible people. That's my point about the podcast, is that people gravitate to people that they know, right?
Exactly.
And I personally think the only way you're going to combat AI is to have somewhat of a personal brand.
Exactly.
Because AI can't, no Claude can do you, man.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Let's see here. Last question. What would be your number one piece of advice for somebody saying, hey, should I get into the automotive business? Should I go on the service side and service the dealers? Should I try to get a managing partner, DP position, dealer principal position? Like, what would you say to somebody? Now, assuming this person is, kind of a little bit seasoned, maybe business world. I think it's a great industry to be in. It's, it sucks you in. I got sucked in the best of ways. I think it's the characters there's no shortage of characters.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think there's ever the same day twice.
No.
There's always something to do. Something is always changing. There's a fire to always be put out. But what would you tell people thinking about getting in the industry?
Yeah, someone seasoned. I think this is probably going to be really disappointing news for someone that's seasoned and really built up some tenure, some repertoire elsewhere. Is that you have to start at the bottom. I think. I think it's a extremely difficult business to come in and think, oh, I have an MBA, or I managed 6 months or 6 years at Pepsi Corporation or Procter and Gamble or something like. Where most of those companies are so far from the end user. You're going to have an extremely difficult time in a business where you're never very far away from the customer. And I think you have to get involved if you wanted to be a dealer principal, for instance. Like, it is possible. There's been the odd guy who's done it, but if I've met 100 successful dealers, like 95 of them have worked every position in the business. And you don't have to do each one for years, but I think you need a fundamental understanding of how difficult it is to serve a customer and what Joe Public is like when you're dealing with a swath of humanity that is as wide as you're dealing with 80-year-olds and you're dealing with 20-year-olds and you're dealing with every ethnicity, every religion, and you never know, and you don't get the choice of who you're going to get to work with. So your adaptability and you need to, I think, understand those skills at a core level. Then I think you can fast track more quickly because a lot of the management principles are quite transferable. Managing people, I think, is managing people. Although managing a sales force directly is very different than managing service, something where everyone's in.
Well, essentially, a dealership is 4 or 5 businesses operating under one thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Got the box, used, new, service, auto body, the whole parts,
accounting,
huge. And if they all have to work as a team, otherwise the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, so I think that if you really have a love for the business and you love entrepreneurship and you want to have a sky's the limit opportunity where you can probably earn more if you're good at it than the vast majority of opportunities you'll be able to find in the world. But the caveat to that is you really can't fake it, and you're not going to be able to come in and MBA your way to credibility. And the great thing about the car business or certainly one of the things I think is most appealing about it is you could literally we've had many times someone who has an MBA go on the sales floor against a guy who is an Uber driver and just get his head taken off because the Uber driver guy's got the work ethic. He knows people. He can open up a conversation from nothing. And the MBA has got a theoretical business understanding that is only marginally applicable to the scenario, very theoretical. So it's not for everyone, for sure. You've got to be a worker. You've got to be someone that's open-minded. But I would say start at the bottom, master every level. And then if you do those things and you're that smart and you have that management experience, you couldn't help but be a massive success. And then once you're at the higher levels of the business, there's not too many better places to be in the world. So that'd be my advice.
Ladies and gentlemen, we tracked him down. We hunted him down. We got in the vehicle. We took it to the service department. We got the oil change. We went through the quick lane and we got Jared Priestner, aka JP, aka, lead singer in a band, the whole nine. But truly, I hope you guys enjoy this. Jared, if I can just get you to say, my name is Jared Priestner. I was just on the Ryan Holtz Show podcast.
My name is Jared Priestner. I've never been the lead singer in a band, and I was just on the Ryan Holtz podcast.
He might be, though. Over and out, everybody. You know what to do.
We're so glad you enjoyed this episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Please don't forget to smash that 5-star review, as Team Holtz will love you for it. Also, say hi to Ryan anywhere on social media using the handle at Ryan Holtz1. That's RYANHOLTZ, the number 1. And if you or your business is looking to expand your brand, book a brand jam with Ryan using the link in the show notes.